pretty good on time to get going. So welcome to the CFDG. This month, Tim Neudecker from MC Services, formerly at Logic, and I know a lot of the people here know him, is going to be presenting on using AI in FileMaker. Before we get going on that, there are a couple of kind of FileMaker announcements on the subject of AI. They have two presentations that they've announced. One is tomorrow, which is going to be kind of a step-by-step workshop on how to use it. And then they have one in November on using local LLMs in FileMaker. So I'll share those links in the chat. And then if anybody wants to join, obviously you can go ahead and register for those. And then so very AI heavy few weeks. And then the Engage registration came out for it's March 25th through 26th. And then they have a training day on the 27th in Austin. And they're still offering their $250 discount if people want to do that. And then the other thing is they published a pretty major vulnerability with OAuth or with authentication in versions prior to 19.6 that if you have any servers that are on something prior to 19.6, it's worthwhile taking a look at this and seeing if it makes sense to upgrade so that you can avoid the vulnerability. So I'm going to share all these links in the chat. Feel free to do with them what you would like. Any other news items that like to bring up before we get going? All right, I'll take that as a no. In that case, Tim, feel free to...
So a lot of folks know me. I'm Tim Neudecker. I've been doing FileMaker for almost as long as Steven. Is he still here? I don't even see him. Yep, there he is. Okay. And I've been going to all these AI things all over the place, like a lot of other people have. It seems to be the flavor of the month. But they're all about the nuts and bolts. How do you put this script step in? What field do you make? Do you make it a container field, a number field, all that kind of stuff? And none of them kind of explain what some of these settings are. So I want to talk about the basics of some of this for those who aren't living in the AI soup. I'd like to make a conversation. If people have experiences and, hey, this works better for me, and I found this setting works great, and it tweaks that, and some of the gotchas I came into. But before I get into those things, I just want to show some real-world applications of FileMaker using AI. So MC Services, where I work, probably a quarter of our company is FileMaker development. The other 75% is what's called a managed service provider. We are outsourced IT people for companies who don't have their own IT departments. So you have a small advertising company with 30, 40 people, and you don't have your own on-site nerds. You hire us, and we're your help desk. We manage your computers and network and databases and all that stuff for you. So we have help desk software, which we wrote in FileMaker. Basically, customers can email us tickets or log into the website and say, hey, my computer is not computing, or call us up. However it is, a ticket gets in the system. So the first task I did when I saw my first demo with AI, everybody seems to do the same demo. They have a list of paragraphs in these records, and they search for the word striped animal, and it finds all the stories about zebras and tigers and stuff because they're striped animals. And it's like, gee, that's nice, but I don't look for striped animals very often. But what we do is we do look for tickets. And when customers are emailing things in, they all have different languages for things. And using AI to find things for that turned out to be really helpful. So I'm going to show my screen, and I will show what I did. Uh-oh, Zoom is requesting the bypass. Yeah. Oh, of course. Is my screen sharing out?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. I installed the Zoom update and it reset all my security and privacy stuff. Okay, so this is the basic ticket form when a ticket comes into the system. Don't worry about the details too much that are in here. But sometimes we get a technician who may not be familiar with this issue. And they want to see, have we solved this problem in the past? How do I solve it? And they don't know what to search for or how to word a search. And when you're searching in FileMaker, it's an exact search you're looking for. It's not very fuzzy. You know, you're looking for exact words. I'm looking for the word thanks. I'm looking for this. I'm not looking for the concept of the issue, which is what AI can help us with. So I made this feature for the team. Oh, my screen got a little bit small. There we go. And I called it similar tickets. So a technician can come in here and say, hey, find tickets that are similar to the one I'm looking at. And I have it set to give 10 results. And I have no idea, if I look back at this original ticket, what a PR30 is. I don't know. I have no clue. But using that, so this function feeds in this ticket name and this description text and finds other tickets that are similar to it. If we look, here's a PR29 ticket. Here's another PR30. Here's central printer. Hey, that turns out that's what this stuff is about. And accessing remote drives. So it found these other similar tickets that I could go read about and see how that other technician solved that problem. Okay, so it's a fast way for somebody to use our database of solutions that we've done and get the results for them. And we'll talk a little bit about how this was refined and some of the choices that had to be made to refine it and get it working really well. Another feature using AI that's in here is after the technician has solved this problem, they did all this work down here, they have to send an email to the customer to say, hey, we solved your problem. Are you satisfied? And help desk people don't like talking to users, let alone writing polite emails that the user can understand. So we used another common feature in AI, which is prompting, where you say, hey, here's some information, write me an email about this, or write a term paper about that, those kind of things. So we made a make a resolution email function. We'll go into how these work again in a minute. So I'm just going to show off the features before we go under the hood. So this one doesn't use built-in native FileMaker AI stuff. It's using the curl function to talk to the API at OpenAI or ChatGPT. And it sends up all the data, again, the name, the description, who the ticket's for, who worked on it, and all this detail about what was done by the engineers. And it constructs this nice email to send to the customer to say, hey, we solved your problem. And this actually took more work than you would expect. And it wasn't programming work. It was language work, wording things so stuff comes out nicely. Because sometimes engineers can write things in the notes of what they did that aren't polite. The idiot deleted their folder. I had to restore it from backup. And you don't want that going to a customer in an email. So you have to figure out how to prompt the system to give you a nice answer, a result. And I'll show you how we worked on some of that. So let's start with the similar ticket search. So we talked about finding being different, and that's what the first one's all about. It's about this embedding. You've probably heard that word. You have to embed your information to search on it through AI. And what that really means is you have to index your information so you can do a fuzzy search for it. We're all familiar with FileMaker's indexing. If we go into manage databases, and I just pick any old text field here. Oh, where's a real one here? This description field. we've looked at the storage tab, and we have several settings for indexing when we do FileMaker searches that we've had since version 3, I think, of FileMaker that we could play with, where there's two kinds of indexes built into FileMaker. There's actually more. But there's two that we can turn on or off, but there's a lot of settings around them. There's a word index for searching for exact words, and then there's a value index which searches for a value. Everybody knows what a value is in FileMaker Pro? It's data all the way up to a return symbol, like a value list. That's a list of values, okay? And that's what's used for relationships, or values. Lines of text up to a return symbol, up to a character limit, something crazy like 114 characters, I forgot. I don't do certification exams that much anymore, so I don't memorize those things. So we have those two types of indexes, and you can't tell which one is on or off, but you know one of them is on, minimal, or they're both on. Yay, FileMaker. But then you have these other settings which you probably never change that are very important. And this is what language are we indexing for in this field? And this is very important because, like, do our V's and W's considered the same letter like they are in Finnish characters? And then there's different symbols like umlauts over U's. Is that equivalent to a U? So depending on the language you pick, will tell if you're getting an exact search or not. Okay, so it's important that you tell the computer what language you're working in. And you're wondering, why is he talking about all this? It has nothing to do with AI. Well, the same things happen in AI. You have to adjust these settings for your conditions so that you get the results in your search that you expect to get. And these settings that we're setting, I will put an equivalency to the type of indexing you're doing on the language model you pick. How are you indexing this data? And the language model decides that. And we're going to look at a bunch of language models today and talk about some of them. So remember I mentioned there's some hidden indexes that weren't in that dialog box that you can control? Well, those are actually controlled by this field right here. Whether it's text, numbers, dates, time, or timestamps, because they are indexed very differently depending on the kind of field you pick. Okay, so if you pick number, indexing ignores all non-number characters. So you could type in the quick brown fox 1 into a number field. FileMaker will let you put it in there, but it won't sort or let you search on the quick brown fox. It'll only let you search on number 1 for that field because you set it as a number field. Okay, where a text field will take in every character you put in. Okay, and time fields are really number fields as well, same as date fields. So this affects your indexing heavily as well. Okay, so let's look at some of the stuff we have to know when we're setting up this kind of search. I'm going to go under the hood. It's going to be a little ugly. I don't make things super pretty to teach classes. Okay, let's start with, I'm going to make a new layout like that. Let's make a new layout and let's look at that similar ticket search. Okay, and I'm just going to make a nice form view and I think I prefixed all my fields with the string AI so I'd be able to find them. So embedding is the indexing for AI. When you do this type of text searching, you create something called an embedding. And when you hear the word embedding, think index. Okay, it's what FileMaker compares and searches on. And every model you pick creates a different embedding. Of course, I put the wrong field on the layout. I'm sorry. I'll talk about that field here in just a minute. Here we go. Container field, container field. There we go. And you're not going to see a lot. And we store these in container fields so that FileMaker won't index them. How's that for a goofy idea? You can put them into a number field if you want, or a text field. And when you do, you're going to get a bunch of goofy data. You get all of these vectors that give direction and how close something is to something in that model. And this is where the voodoo of AI comes in. I have no idea to explain what these numbers mean. And these numbers are only pertinent to the model that they're indexed from. So the AI engine takes your string of text, puts it into the large language model, and says, index this for me, embed it, and it gives you back this string of numbers. And the order of the numbers is important, and the numbers themselves is important. So you can see by the way I named my field, I did this using the AI model for embedding 3 large from OpenAI. And we're like, what the heck does that mean? And we're going to get into that in just a minute. That's where we're headed. So I went through about 5 different large language models. And the reason I did this is when I first made this search, it was finding all kinds of goofy stuff that didn't make sense. I would say find similar tickets to this, and they would be tickets all about totally different things. And it just wasn't working. And then I started trying different models, and I found a model that worked. So most of the demos I see from the FileMaker Claris team and DB Services and these other companies who've been doing demos, Rich Carlton's demos that they did on the FileMaker Daily Show, they all use this ADA large language model. And that just didn't work for me. I got really bad results. And I went through a bunch of other models and I came up and I found, hey, this embedded 3 large really works well for me. And it took me a while to get there. And I don't know how to tell you how to find the right one, but I can give you some resources to help you find that right one. So let's talk about what these models are. So this is the OpenAI website. And if you go down at the bottom, you can actually log in. They hide the login. It's this API login button at the bottom. All the demos say log into your OpenAI class, and they never tell you how to log in. For some reason, they hide this. And you hit this critter, and you can log right in. But there is a page here where they try to sell you their models. And there's a whole bunch of them, but the models for doing this embedding are actually of a type called embedding model. So you'll see these listed right here, a set of models to convert text to numerical form. And that's what we're looking for this embedding, find similar things type search. So we can jump down here. And this is the one I found that works really well for what I'm doing. And it turns out it's a very big model. So you have this dimensional output, and this is kind of how deep it goes looking, okay? And they also talk about something called tokens, and we'll see a little bit about that later. Tokens are how hard should it look? This one can search up to 3,000 tokens at a time. And also that's how many numbers are going to be in that wall of text when we get it back. So this is kind of like when it scores the paragraph you send it scores it in tokens, and it has 3,000 scores that it gives that text. They're talking about tigers, they're talking about giraffes, or whatever these different things are that lead to similar stuff. Okay, because you're going to get a embedding for what you're searching for, and it's going to compare the two and find the most similar ones. So the more dimensions you have, the better your searches can be, I'm finding. But also, the more dimensions you have, the higher the cost is to use that model. So there's a pro and a con with that. So the bigger the model you use, the more it costs to use it. Okay, so we can see some of these Babbage, that's where those adages come from, and they can do a lot more tokens. But it was not working well for me, and that's why I changed away from those. I find this OpenAI thing here really hard to read. I don't speak AI nerd, and have a hard time understanding this. So I've actually found another website. Has anybody seen this one? Please feel free to interrupt me as we go. This one's called Huggy Face, and they have forums and tools and all kinds of good stuff for doing AI, but they've got some great descriptions of all the models and what they're good at, because some models are trained in medical terms, some models are trained in, politics, some are trained in relationships, who knows? So you got to find a model that works well for what you're doing. And I find Huggy Face to be really nice. But there are also a lot of articles out here that try to explain this much better than what I'm doing. And they get into what the different generations mean of the models, what they're good at, all this kind of fun stuff. Okay. What kind of prompts they work best with. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to find the chat window. Oh, since I'm sharing, I can't see it. There is chat. I am throwing in these 3 links in chat for you. So it's the main OpenAI page. You've got the models page I went to at OpenAI, which is a little deep on the nerd factor for me. And then the Huggy Face one. And I want to add this blog post right here, which is not bad as well. Okay, so there's 3 quick resources to start learning about the model. And what I did when I set this up, I'm going to leave tomorrow's Claris to show the nuts and bolts on writing the actual script for doing this. But one of your steps when you are embedding is to insert the embeddings into your records. So you as a programmer have to keep track of your embedding for each model. And you put that into that container field, that's that set of numbers we were looking at. So what I did is I started comparing models. I would pick 2 models, I'd add 2 container fields, and I would store 2 different embeddings every time I embedded a record or indexed a record. And then I would do the search using each embedding and see which one came out best. So I compared a whole bunch of embeddings, and then once I settled on the one I like, I just disabled the other one from my script. And the whole AI script for doing this is a command in FileMaker called insert embedding. Don't worry about my keys and stuff. I'm going to blow all my keys out of the water after the presentation. So you can use them during the presentation all you like, but they're all going to change here in about an hour. So you can see my account that we did. Let me get back into the gear here. The target field that I'm storing. I tried to name all my embedding fields by the name of the model so I don't get confused of what's stored in that field. And I made a flag field that tells me if that record has been embedded for that model. Okay, so I can keep track on it. And I have a little maintenance script, which is what we're looking at right here, which basically does a find for all the records that are not embedded for that model and embeds them, and then sets that field to a 1 once it gets embedded. So that way, hey, I want to start using this old model. I could just uncomment this script, and we can do that right here. Hit save, and I'm going to run this, and it's going to embed a couple hundred tickets right now. 300 tickets. So it's actually sending all the new tickets that have been made since I turned off that embedding up to OpenAI with that model and downloading the embeddings. When I did this initial database, it was about 13,000 records. It took about 10 minutes to embed it. Let's see. So now I have embeddings for the ADA 002 model, which was the one you see in all the Claris demos. And I didn't like its searches, as I've mentioned several times, but you see how quick that was. So let's look at one other thing that goes with this. Where's my web browser? Let's go back to OpenAI and let's go into my account. Billing. In my 2 months of doing this, and doing multiple embeddings per record, I've used 26 cents worth of AI time. So this is like next to free. But I have a private individual account. I do not have a commercial account. And I don't know what the prices do if I start putting this in customer files right now. So I don't know what the copyrights are on the use of these language models and things. So that's something we need to figure out. I'm trying to see if I can get somewhere there is a screen that shows usages. Does anybody know how to get there and see that real fast?
I think it's maybe limits.
It's in
So
the
you did,
pricing, isn't it?
I think it is in billing. If you go back to billing,
Okay,
um,
usage limits, I can set the limits.
yeah.
This is, the max I can get returned. But there's a place where they actually graph your daily spend.
I want to say it is in billing somewhere.
Dashboard. Usage, there it is. Okay, so you can see, so today, there you go, that cost me a penny to index those 300 records. So, we haven't done very much with this thing. So embedding is very cheap. Where the AI tends to get more expensive is when you ask it to make video or audio files and things like that, because that takes a lot of data and takes a lot more oomph to process that. So, oh yeah, here's some of the initial, when I did the initial 14,000 records, that's when it cost me 24 cents. So since I did the initial embedding, I've spent 2 cents in usage to keep it up to date. So that's not too bad. That's pretty good cost-wise. Okay, so these language models are very important, and experiment with them. They will help you. Now, part of what you also have to do, let's get back into the script here.
You have a hand up for a question.
Oh, who's that? Go right ahead, please, Paul.
It's me, Tim. Paul Sprague here. It's,
Yeah.
good to see another charter member of this group. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a kind of a spiritual question about this.
Yeah.
I'm working with a dev team that's been charged by management that they have to integrate AI into their solutions because we have to be able to tell the clients that yes, we are on top of this. And
Okay.
So we're kind of struggling with use cases. Search, I think, is not going to fit the bill because that is a way to make it slower and less precise. We're thinking we might be able to use it for translations, for
Yep.
describing images. I like your idea about the composition of emails on the help desk. That's a great idea. What are the other use cases?
Well, there's another use case. I have not executed it yet, but it's one I'm dying to try. And you upload, almost like embed your schema. You say, I have these tables with these fields and they're related this way with these key fields. Write me an SQL query that will tell me the average purchase size of products in category widget. And it will look at your schema and it will build the SQL query that you can then feed into a list view and find those records and present them to the user. So they can do natural language queries on your data. Instead of you having to teach the user, okay, you have to go to the invoice table, search for all the products in this category, then put it in list view and do this at the line item level, and it will put that together for you and help you do that. And I'm hoping that some of the stuff they'll demo tomorrow, but I have not gone so far as to attempt to do that one yet. But I think those kind of business intelligence searches could be really cool. Natural language queries in FileMaker. A teacher could sit down on a school information system and say, hey, find me all the kids who failed 4 or more classes this year that are not in IEPs at all. And you can pull those up and see what's going on. So you can get these ad hoc reporting without teaching somebody to be a FileMaker expert. So I think that might be a really cool app once we figure out a standardized way to do that. Okay, so let me show a little bit about how the other search is done, because it's a little bit different. It's not using the native FileMaker tools that we see here where you do embedding and store the indexing. It's doing the prompting. So has everybody here gone to ChatGTP and asked it questions? So, you can log in and go, tell me a story about FileMaker Pro working well. So, you can ask this question and it goes off and it does its thing. And there you go. It looks like it's pulling up the marketing department's information. So we prompted it. That's what this command was we typed in. And we left it a little open-ended in how it works. So, well, okay, so I didn't give it any scope of how long of a story I want, so it's kind of going to town on me. Okay, so it's done. I can say, make the story shorter, and it will do that for you. Okay, so you can have this conversation with it, and it works on it for you. I could have phrased the original question, tell me a short story about this. And how you organize that prompt is really important to how it responds to you. So when I was doing, well, let's look at how I built the prompt first. So this script, make resolution email, this does that entire function of sending off the resolution email. And the real meat of it, I'm using ChatGTP 3.5 Turbo as my model, as you can see right there at OpenAI. And the string of text that I'm sending it is right here, is this prompt. Okay, and this is the important part. So I did that just in FileMaker. So if we go back to the database, and we look in here in my AI fields, I have a field called what's the prompt for this ticket? And it's just an old-fashioned calculation field tying text together. I spent an hour typing stuff into ChatGTP to get it to write a good email. I kind of manually figured out how to do it. And once I manually figured it out, I just wrote a calculation engine that built that question. But some of the important stuff I put in here is I had to say, who is ChatGTP? I had to say, hey, ChatGTP, you are this person. In this case, I said, hey, I'm a computer tech support person. So it kind of knows my frame of mind. I told it what my name was. I said I work at a company called MC Services. And I said, I am nice. That turned out to be kind of important. Telling it that it's polite and nice, it writes polite and nice letters. It doesn't say the customer was an idiot and they deleted their mailbox and I had to restore it from backup for them. It'll prune that stuff out. So these little things add up to making it work. And it says, hey, I solved the problem for a customer. Make me a summary email to tell the customer what was done to resolve their problem. And then I said, hey, this next paragraph is going to be all this information about what we did to solve that problem. And I told it, the ticket number, the date of the ticket, just some factual information, who it's going to. And then I pulled in a big field, the description, which we saw in that box. That's what the similar ticket search was done on. But I made another field that does some real heavy lifting for us. Okay, and this is the work that's performed. And that's actually stored in a related table of update logs where the techs update the ticket with what they've done. Each time they do something, they put an update in there. In MSP speak, that's their time entry. So I took all their time entries and I lumped them together into a paragraph. So let's look at that calculation and see what it's doing. So I'm going to cancel out of here and we're going to go to the update log summary, and it's using the list function. That is a function that when given a bunch of values or a field through a relationship makes a value list. Remember we were talking about indexing before, and values are return separated blocks of text. So for each time entry on that ticket, it makes a one-line entry for them by grabbing a field called AI log item summary. And that AI log item summary is really just 3 fields concatenated together. Let's look at a ticket and see what that is. Oop. I'm just going to grab a random one. It's the time and date the work was done, the customer's description of what was done, and I think it might include the internal. I don't remember if I included both. So we're trying to get the technicians to say, hey, put the geeky stuff over here in internal description and put a description the customer can understand over here. That was our first attempt at getting them to do this. So we put that stuff in there. So if this ticket has 2 things, it puts both of those in there. So it sends off that prompt, and let's look at the prompt for this ticket right here. Let's go down to right here. So here's that prompt. You are a computer tech person named Tim Neudecker working for MC Services. You are nice. There's that. You have solved the problem for the customer. Should I just kind of zoom in on that? Is everybody able to read that? Let me zoom in one time here. Oop. Get the images out of here. Okay, so, so I'm giving all these little instructions about what to do. Then here's that ticket number. Here's who reported it. All that good stuff. And this one came in as an email. So this is actually the customer's email right here that they sent in. So that's what the issue was that was reported. And then here's those details, those time entries that were made. So it tells us the time and date, who the technician was, and all this good stuff. And it puts all that together. Let's build a thing on that one. What's that ticket number? Well, it's not completed, but we'll still get a summary ticket out of it. Let's go back into tickets. Let's do a find. And let's go look at that ticket. Let's make a resolution email. So we send that prompt up using the curl command. It opened up on my other monitor. And we get that email back. And it's near on instant. It's pretty darn quick. So, and we get to see that, hey, I'm writing to inform you that the printer has been successfully resolved. The biggest thing the customer likes to know. And that comes from that part of the prompt I did where I said, you have solved their problem. So the first thing it puts in the email is, hey, we solved your problem, because customers love to see that. And the engineers never put that in there when they write them themselves. They say, hey, we changed your IP address, everything's working. And the customer goes, okay. So this gives them a nice thing. It even puts in, hey, if you have further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. It really works well, and the customer feedback has been just amazing from this. Normal FileMaker for addressing, it's just a send mail step when we get the data back. There's a great demo on how to do a prompted thing with a downloadable file. DB Services, if you search their blogs, they have a nice free demo file you can download and cut the script out of, and it will do this type of prompting for you. You just have to build your prompt in the calc field, and they have the whole script. You don't have to know curl to use it or any of this weird API programming. You can literally cut and paste from their demo file and do this. So it's very helpful. So I recommend doing that. It's a DB Services. And it just works really well. But spending the time asking these questions manually of the AI and learning to have a conversation with it, and once you figure that out, embedding that into a calc field, and you're golden. You've got it working. So I'm wondering if the sales team might like this. If we could take questions from the website. Hey, can you guys write me a database that does this and this and this? It could write a sales email and respond to the customer. Hey, we'd love to write a database that can do this and this and this. And looking at our project history, we've done this for 4 other customers, So there might be a way to merge this stuff together and automate our sales, You know, who wouldn't love to get rid of their sales department? Ooh. Any questions or comments?
Tim, have you used, I know with the OpenAI prompts, you can also send it examples as part of the prompt. Have
Yeah.
you part of it?
Yeah. I haven't done that in any automated fashion. Because the trick of doing this is I'm not having a conversation with the AI when we're doing it from FileMaker. I need to build an entire prompt that does it all. But I could easily add that at the end of the calculation for the prompt. Hey, here are some examples, and plug in that information. Some of the stuff you have to do while doing this is there's something called a temperature. And this is kind of like the "you are nice" thing. It's what's the temperature of the AI? Is it high or low? And I've fiddled with this and couldn't tell much of a difference. So I set it at 0.5. I got much better results by stating the mindset I want in the prompt question. You are nice. You are a tech support person. You know, giving it that kind of information worked a lot better for me. What else are there? There's some, yeah.
I'm gonna answer to,
Oh, please.
Justin. Yeah, some of the things that I've seen really apply a lot if you're trying to do coding whether it's FileMaker or web coding or whatever. When you're sending the prompts and sending examples, that really works well because then it knows what to expect, and you can say, I want it returned as JSON, or I want it returned as XML, or I want it returned as plain text. So you can, that's the things that you put in the prompt when you're trying to say, send an example of what you want back. That
Okay.
really helps.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
I can see that being helpful if you, for example, need for the keys in your JSON to be specific words. Having the example would probably be helpful for that.
Yeah.
Excellent. I haven't done any attempted to get code out of AI. I don't, maybe that's me not wanting to replace myself. I don't know. I did have an intern who was using ChatGPT to write his code. He was having a bugger of a time. It was all bash scripting, and it was not working for him. So that was fun.
Yeah, you definitely have to know coding to really understand it sometimes.
Yeah. So can anybody else think of a good use for this to help out Paul? Other ideas? What kind of software or data are you dealing with?
It's mostly product data. So we've got a lot of product descriptions, headlines, prices, disclaimers, sales copy, romance copy, web keywords, a lot of stuff like that.
Okay. You might be able to write a function where you take a prompt on a new product and its description and stuff and have it generate the keyword list for good SEO.
Yep.
Something like that just to help out, and then the team trims that and adjusts it. That might be.
What I'm finding is well, in doing previous migrations of this data from one system to another, the question is always how much of the old data do you want to bring forward? And what we end up doing a lot of times is dumping it into a temporary advisory field, we call them, where if a copywriter is in this record, they want to see, okay, give me something to start with, and write the real copy. And so I could kind of see AI populating that suggestion field, but not right. I mean, it's not gonna save a copywriter from having to go in there and write it. But it could certainly help in the suggestion type of field.
No, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, it could have maybe help get 75% of the way there, so they only have to do the final 25%.
Which they like a lot, because that's the one rule you'll notice when we do our function for the email generation, we don't send the email. It pops it up on screen.
Gives them a draft.
We make them read it and agree with it before it goes out the door. You know, because when they send it, the customer thinks it's from them and it's gospel. So, you know, they need to proofread that and make sure it's real. So let me, oh yeah, let's show all. See if I find one that's resolved here. Oh, here's a good one. Lots of feedback. Let's see how this one looks. Sends it up. Oh, I'm sorry. It can make the email faster than I can drag the window over. Pleased to inform you. Let's change this. Let's go in here, resolution email. Yeah, cancel. Let's come back in here. Let's edit that prompt field. Let's play with that prompt. Where is my AI prompt? AI string resolution email.
I think you're gonna be on the, oh, never mind.
Yep. So what if we came in here and we changed this? You are, I don't know, mean. Let's go for an extreme. And we'll save that. Say okay. And we're going to generate that same email. I just want to see what happens. Okay, I'm writing to inform you that this regarding has been discussed with yourself. So it gets very exact. You know, on this date, this person did this. Please let us know. Thank you for your patience. Oh, it's still fairly nice. Look at that. Didn't get, but it got much more exacting in its information. You see what that one little change did? Please let us know. Huh, that almost feels nice to me as well. Well, he's not pleased, you know, here it says, I'm pleased to inform you. None of that. It's just writing, I'm writing to inform you. So you kind of see how the tone did change when we did that. Huh, interesting. Okay. Let me change that back before somebody actually sends the email. Where is my AI prompt? Okay. Any other questions or comments? No? So the big takeaways I have, you have to experiment. And it's not so much coding experiment, it's figuring out how to talk to the AI experimenting. Because some of these little changes can make big differences. Try as many different models as you can. And the cost to do it is just your time. It's really cheap running this stuff. I mean, doing all these emails will not even register on our bill. So it's just not there. It's really cheap to experiment with and play with. So, well, thank you, everybody. Any other questions or fun things like that? I'd love to see real world examples if other people are already doing AI, if anybody wants to share their stuff. Love to see it.
I think the last time that we did an AI session, we shared a couple of things that we're doing. One of those items is we're doing something very similar to what you're doing, Tim. Where we have a process where when you submit timesheets, we have a button that you can click that'll translate your timesheet from, you know, whatever you put into like a nice, you know, pretty sentence like that.
Yeah.
And then another request that we got from a client actually that we ended up using in some other places was they have a calendar app, like an internal built-in FileMaker, and they wanted it to have all of the holidays on the app, all of the kind of federal holidays in there. And originally we said, well, we'll give you a place to add them in. And they said, no, we want you to automatically do it. So we built an AI function that asks ChatGPT or OpenAI to give us all the holidays and their dates and throws them into the calendar for them.
Oh, nice.
Those are the
nice.
couple of things that we've done.
Okay. I did that the hard way. I actually have a list of calculations to calculate every federal holiday. There's actually math for each one of them. And I just wrote a script that you say what year you want to set the holidays for, and it makes the events.
Huh.
The only one that has a hard time with is Easter because it's based on the phase of the moon. So
Yeah, and if you have somebody who's needs all the Jewish holidays, you're in
well, same thing. Yeah, it's another astronomy based one.
yeah. But
But all the federal holidays are there,
yeah,
They
well,
all have math behind them. But
now you
that's
can
cool.
use
That's a lot easier.
ChatGPT for
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have experience of searching for the solution? I mean, the example you gave, you've already got the solution and you have to communicate it to that it's been done to the client. But what happens if you don't know what the solution is?
Well, that was the first example I showed where we checked history to see if we've solved similar problems, and you can read how that problem was solved.
But do you ever go out onto the web?
No, it's searching our ticket database where we'll let the engineers go off to the web for new stuff, but we are searching our history, 15 years of data of tickets there, 15,000 tickets, and find those because, rarely do we get a new problem. It's sometimes the word changes from Active Directory to Azure, but it's the same issue. The user's typing in their ID wrong,
Do you mind showing us a couple of examples of actually using what the embedding to help solve a problem?
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I couldn't hear you.
Can you show us a couple of examples of using the embedded, like what you've gotten embedded to actually?
Okay. Yeah, let me clean up my screen a little bit, and I'll go through the code again. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the ticket system, and these are all the new unfinished tickets. So these are perfect. So I'll grab a ticket right here. So this customer just filed this one just a little while ago, and they say, hey, we need to know an account for a machine. And for grins, I'm gonna come up here, I'm gonna say find similar tickets. And I'll go through again what this process does, but it pops a new window for me. And this new window shows other tickets in our history that are similar to the ticket we were on. Okay, so the bottom one, the most accurate, closest ticket that it thinks it found is at the bottom of the list. And that's, of course, the ticket we were searching for better be the most accurate ticket because it's exactly what we're searching for. So let's look at the ticket above it. I received a pop-up from MC Service, analyzes instructions, blah, blah, blah. So this is something about user account. So that one's not very accurate, but I can go back, able to set below. Can you confirm username and password? So that's not a very good one for finding similar tickets. They're literally just asking us for a password. Let's try a different one. Find my outbound invoices being marked as spam or junk. Actions, find similar tickets. So here's another customer who said, hey, we're still experiencing issues with customers not receiving our email. Never says spam or junk. Oh no, they did say spam right there. Right there. But that was the closest one, and I can read through this resolution and learn about the demarcs, check that stuff, and go through all of this to make sure we have it set up correctly. So I can kind of quickly find a ticket that's similar from our internal knowledge base of what we've done. Now, how that's working again, let me go back to right here. We made this embeddings. Remember I talked about the embeddings? Let's go down to here. So we're using this 3 embedding. So what happens is when you put in a ticket, the system creates this embedding for the ticket right here that sends off to OpenAI. the description text. Dun, dun, dun. Right here, one command, insert embedding. And it's just puts their text. It sends up the ticket string. Let's open this up. So we get a source field, AI string, and that's just a calc that takes the description of the ticket, the name of the ticket and such. I think the customer name is in there, and gets an AI embedding on that. And when it gets the results back, it puts it into the embedding field. And you can do this on a found set of records or a single record. In this case, I'm doing a found set. So whenever this runs, it does a search for any tickets that have been put in the system that don't have embedding for this model, and they have a description, so they're not blank tickets. So it finds all those tickets that haven't been embedded, it embeds them. And then when it actually does the search, we use the perform semantic find function from FileMaker. You tell it what model, what embedding field you want to search on, and what you want to search for. And what you're searching for is just the embedding that's on the ticket that you started on. So traditionally, when you'll see a lot of these demos, they take a global field and you'll type in your search, I'm looking for striped animals, and they will embed I'm looking for striped animals, and get that number code for it, then compare that to all the embeddings on the ticket. Well, here we've already got the embedding for the current ticket we're on. We want to find other tickets that are similar to it, so we don't need to do a separate send to get that embedding. We've already got it. And I tell it how many returns I want. I just need 10 records returned. I could crank that up to 20. But I find usually within the first 3 or 4 tickets, we've got what we need. So I can turn that on. So once the embedding's done, I don't have to talk to the AI model ever again to do this search. So that's also a nice thing about doing it this way. So now we've got the top 20 records. And you'll find in those demos, when you watch the other videos that people have done on how to implement this, you can show scores of how close the AI model thinks the results are to what you searched for. I don't show any. I just tell them, hey, start at the bottom and work your way up. And we can kind of go up and see all these emails about junk that are out there. So I could imagine this, Dave, in some of your databases of articles and stories on various things in politics and philosophers' writings. You know, find me things about the state of man in this mindset, and it will go through those and dig them up if you get the right model. You know, you might embed the stories paragraph by paragraph as opposed to story by story, so you can find sections within the stories. So
what has happened to me is I've downloaded articles and even books for many years. Many times, obviously, it doesn't download with any indication of what is actually being downloaded, right? Just a 6-digit number or a 10-digit number or something like that. And now, of course, I don't know what's there. That would be rather useful for it to put all that. I guess, would I have to put it all into one folder and then ask the AI to go through each and every file looking for certain content?
You would probably have to put that content into a text field.
Yeah.
To embed it. Yeah.
Okay, that would be good.
This is all for embedding text right now. Can we do this with graphics? I haven't tried embedding a container field for an image and say, hey, find me all the photos of cats.
Not yet.
Not yet?
Cross
Okay.
your fingers.
Yeah. Well, I think tomorrow is also, they might be showing off some of the Apple AI stuff, and I'm hoping we get features that use that, because Apple's AI is going to let you put your large language model on your local computer, so you're not having to go out over the internet and give your data to OpenAI to do this stuff. Because that's something else you have to consider. Every time I send one of these ticket requests or embed a ticket, OpenAI has the text for all my tickets now, and they're going to use that to train their other models. So there's a bit of a privacy concern around this as well. You got to be careful about what you're sending them because they're going to use it. There are reasons this stuff is cheap.
Hmm.
So, you know, and the Apple one's going to do it all local on your machine and not send anything out to the world. That's also why it's going to take 4 to 5 gigabytes of data on your machine because you're going to have that model on your machine.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff around that.
Yeah, that's kind of the, I would say, ethical / security concern
Yep.
with this. Do
Yep,
you,
yep,
are you willing to send your clients' data to OpenAI? You know,
yeah.
take that risk.
And that's part of why our technicians do not put passwords in the tickets. So all those requests for passwords, we don't tell what the password was in an update log. Just say you sent the password, you know.
As part of our timesheet kind of rewriting tool, we haven't removed any client name or person name or any of those kinds of things to try to avoid sending any information that could potentially be.
Good idea. Good idea.
Yeah. The problem at universities is the reverse of that. It's the receiving end of stuff. Namely, you send, you ask the students to write a term paper, they ask ChatGPT to write it for them.
Yeah.
So do you think that's going to be a problem?
Well, not for me because I just retired. However, for
Well, I'm just wondering. I mean, a lot of people, you know, the kids won't learn the information they're writing the papers about and that kind of stuff. But is that much different than learning to use a typewriter and they're not learning cursive and handwriting and how to use a slate? Oh, you kids and your ballpoint pens, you need to learn how to use a slate and not get chalk all over everything.
Well, it used to be that the problem was plagiarized papers or papers written, you know, for a price. And so there was software which checked that it wasn't already available somewhere on the internet or that it was a certain format that we knew was plagiarized. So now, I mean, they'll have to come up with software to check that it's not been done
So
through
is
AI or
plagiarism
else
bad,
modify the term paper and, you know, judge the student based on the prompts that they sent in or, you know, the presentation they make of it. I mean, you go back to the past and I'll just a little anecdote. Linnaeus, you know, the guy who came up with the binomial nomenclature, they're in the process of reclassifying all the master's theses written by his students because they were written by him. And in those days, in the 18th century in Sweden, you paid your professor to write your thesis, then you had to defend it. You had to know it well enough to defend it. And that's where the thesis defense came from. So it's kind of interesting. So, you know, people can get modified. A lot of faculty are panicking and they're saying, oh, we have to reduce our class size, which of course is what they say whenever there's any problem, but that's not going to happen. A little ingenuity, you know, technology, you're right, technology advances. People, I'm sure, moaned, you know, that you had to write your whole scroll when books started to come out, and we went through this all when online programs and when course management systems came out. So it's
so I mean, now we're teaching classes on how to use Wikipedia and how to use the internet and judge information, where it used to be how to do research in the library and use a card catalog and you know, do I use Mad Magazine or do I use Time Magazine as my source? How do I judge those? And now it's how do I get a well-written document that my boss wanted off ChatGPT? You know, how do you do that prompting?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just changing the skill set of the people, right? It's no longer you need to be able to write beautiful paragraphs. It's you need to be able to ask the engine to write beautiful paragraphs.
Yep. Yep. And we're not teaching cabbies how to crank cars anymore. You know, they have a start button. You know.
And again, cabbies are going to be replaced by the driverless cars.
Exactly. Exactly.
And what do? They take classes at the university.
I put a link in the chat to not tomorrow's meeting, but the one on November 7th with Wim talking about the local LLMs. So
excellent.
That's the next Claris Live after tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Beverly. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope this wasn't too rambly. I hope
Very
that
helpful.
understand some of it and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for having me, Justin.
Thank you, Tim. This was great. I really appreciate you coming on.
Good to see you, Tim,
Yeah, thank you.
after all these years.
For next month, Robert has a presentation on logging, audit logging that he's going to do. So we'll be leaving the AI world and entering the security logging world in the next month. So looking forward to that. We'll send out information on the date and everything when we get closer to. All right. With that, everybody have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your Halloween, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Halloween,
Tim.
y'all.